And what we're seeing today are very deadly consequences of failed policies, failure on the American administration's part to change course, to take a different course of action with how it deals with the Palestinians and the Israelis, failure on Israel's part, failure on the region's part, to not be able to say, this is an issue that matters.
Ain't nothing changed, nothing new here to see. This ain't nothing but some political maneuvering. America, welcome to the eulogy, eat it up. It's called political buffoonery.
Hey there, everybody, and welcome to This Week in DUMBmocracy, where we showcase some of the dumbest newsmakers of the week. Now, I'm going to be totally honest with you. This is my third attempt at trying to make this video, because frankly, I'm infuriated. Normally, I like to make videos that we can all laugh about. The funny haha moments in American politics that are just so dumb that all we can do is point and laugh at the buffoonery of it all. This is not that video. We all know what happened over the weekend. The military offensive by Hamas against Israel that left hundreds dead, over 1,000 injured, and many more taken hostage, tortured. It's vile and disgusting what we've seen. But what may be even more vile is some of the rhetoric coming out of political circles, mainly from the far left, justifying this violence, torture, and everything else that we've seen. It's irredeemable. I'm going to be pulling back the curtain a little bit on the source of this rhetoric. But before I do, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, and if you like what you see here in this video, please be sure to like, comment, share the show with your friends, all that good stuff that we normally do. This one's going to get a little heavy, guys. And where I'm going to start with is the media. This is a clip from MSDNC featuring commentator Ayman Mohyeldin. What you hear in this clip should infuriate you.
But Hamas is saying, well, if nobody is able to defend what is happening for Palestinians in the West Bank or in East Jerusalem with the home demolitions, the arrests, the children being killed, the desecration of holy sites, if they're unable to do that, then we only have the ability to do it with military might and crude weapons and military. And what we're seeing today are very deadly consequences of failed policies, failure on the American administration's part to change course, to take a different course of action with how it deals with the Palestinians and the Israelis, failure on Israel's part, failure on the region's part, to not be able to say, this is an issue that matters.
I'm completely infuriated by this. It's not the fault of Hamas for shooting off 1,000 missiles at civilians on a high holy day in a surprise attack. They had no choice. It's really America's fault that this is happening because of their policies. Frankly, I'm disgusted by this sort of rhetoric. Let's be clear. There is no moral equivalence between U.S. policy in Israel and a surprise military attack featuring 1,000 missiles raining down on civilians, hundreds dead, over 1,000 injured, and women, children, and the elderly taken hostage and in some cases tortured. I'm not buying that. I know you're not buying that. But this is the far left, I guess. This is the message that they want to put out there. Let's delve deeper. I want to see what the far left really looks like. Who's in support of this sort of violence in the Middle East? So this is a video from a pro-Palestine rally in Times Square. Now, let's be clear. I am for protests. I am for rallies. I am for freedom of speech. That's okay by me. I have no problem with that. You want to have an opinion that differs from me? Fine. That's cool. The point of showing this is to see if we can glean some knowledge about who's behind this rally and to determine whether or not a pure message is being co-opted by other organizations with ulterior motives. So let's take a look at this rally. It was a rather large rally that happened over the weekend in Times Square. There was a march that was included in all that. You see that there are many people there, quite a diverse crowd. And oh, look, we're pulling up to a sign here. Let's stop it right there. So this is a protest sign that was pre-made by the International Action Center that says, "End all aid to the racist state of Israel." Well, I guess they're making their position clear on Israel, aren't they? So let's look up this International Action Center and see what they're all about. So here's their website. I'm not going to give the site address because, frankly, they ain't worth it. 2 NYC emergency actions for heroic Palestine uprising. So let's be clear. The death of hundreds of civilians, the torturing of civilians, the taking of hostages, that's heroic uprising. And apparently they're going to have some rallies coming up, which I'm not going to advertise, but the fact that they add an adjective of heroic for what happened over the weekend should tell you all you need to know about the International Action Center. But in case you weren't convinced just yet, this also appears on the International Action Center's website. It's a statement from a pro-Palestinian organization in New York. Today, an unprecedented series of events has taken place, led by our heroic resistance in Gaza, who have shown the world yet again that the spirit of the Palestinian people cannot and will not be trampled, and that our resistance to Zionism and Western imperialism remains strong. Make no mistake, they're talking about America, they're talking about our way of life here as well. More than 30 Zionist hostages have been captured, several settlements surrounding Gaza have fallen, and the walls that have entrapped and suffocated Gaza for over 17 years have been broken. By land, air, and sea, the resistance's offensive has set a new precedent for our national liberation struggle and has reinsisted on that which all the oppressed peoples of the world already understand, that we have the right to return and resist occupation, oppression, and ethnic cleansing by any means necessary. Now, I don't know what you believe is going on in Gaza or in Palestine. That's not for me to discuss here. What I want to highlight is this part right here, celebrating news of hostage taking. If you're on the right side of history, I don't think you do that. I think that taking enemy combatants is regrettable when you're in war. It's not something to celebrate. It's not something to celebrate that people are getting killed. I'm sorry, you just don't do that. But what I suspect I'm seeing here as well is a connection between this pro-Palestinian movement and some socialist undercurrents. Let's go back to that video and see if I'm right. There are definitely more signs around. Let's see if we can get closer to one of these other signs here. Yep, I think we got it right there. Bang, right there. Party for Socialism and Liberation. You're going to want to know who these people are. So, the Party for Socialism and Liberation have many websites. This is one where they wrote a statement about what's going on in Israel right now. Free Palestine, free all Palestinian political prisoners, end all U.S. aid to the Israeli apartheid regime. There you go. The unrelenting oppression, murder, torture, and occupation carried out by the Israeli apartheid regime has precipitated a counter-offensive by Palestinian resistance forces. Counter-offensive. This is the apologist again. This is the justification of war by socialists. The whole idea of by any means necessary hasn't died down in socialist circles. This is the far, far left that we should all be afraid of in this country. The Israeli war machine and its attendant systems of oppression are bought and paid for by U.S. imperialism. U.S. tax dollars fund the grinding oppression of the Palestinian people to the tune of $4 billion each year. This is exactly what we heard from Ayman Moyeldin in that MSDNC video. It's almost like socialism has become the mainstream thought in the Democratic Party on Israel. It's kind of scary when you think about it. But hey, this is just media and fringe rhetoric, right? This isn't happening in the halls of Congress, right? Right? Like what you see so far? Go ahead and smash that thumbs up button. Also, leave us a comment and tell us what you're thinking. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another show. So when I think of far-left socialist views in Congress, of course I think of the squad. Cori Bush, Ayanna Pressley, Rashida Tlaib, AOC, Ilhan Omar. Let's see their reaction to Hamas's attack of Israel. Let's start out with Cori Bush. I am heartbroken by the ongoing violence in Palestine and Israel, and I mourn for the over 250 Israeli and 230 Palestinian lives that have been lost today, and the thousands injured following attacks by Hamas militants on Israeli border towns and Israeli military bombardment of Gaza. I strongly condemn the targeting of civilians, and I urge the immediate ceasefire and de-escalation to prevent further loss of life. Our immediate focus must be saving lives, but our ultimate focus must be on a just and lasting peace that ensures safety for everyone in the region. Violations of human rights do not justify more violations of human rights, and a military response will only exacerbate the suffering of Palestinians and Israelis alike. As part of achieving a just and lasting peace, we must do our part to stop this violence and trauma by ending U.S. government support for Israeli military occupation and apartheid. Heard that rhetoric before? It's again that apologist nature that this is America's fault, that Hamas's raining down hellfire is somehow U.S. fault for supporting Israel. That's completely un-American, but not unexpected from Cori Bush. And now for Rashida Tlaib. I grieve the Palestinian and Israeli lives lost yesterday, today, and every day. I am determined as ever to fight for a just future where everyone can live in peace, without fear, and with true freedom, equal rights, and human dignity. Oh, isn't that nice? The path to that future must include lifting the blockade, ending the occupation, and dismantling the apartheid system that creates the suffocating, dehumanizing conditions that can lead to resistance. The failure to recognize the violent reality of living under siege, occupation, and apartheid makes no one safer. No person, no child anywhere should have to suffer or live in fear of violence. We cannot ignore the humanity in each other. As long as our country provides billions in unconditional funding to support the apartheid government, this heartbreaking cycle of violence will continue. Again, where's the condemnation of the attack by Hamas? There's plenty of condemnation for the U.S. and Israel together, which, by the way, she doesn't even have the dignity to mention by name. I'm starting to see a little bit of a pattern here. Now to Ilhan Omar. I'm sure this is going to be a doozy. I condemn the horrific acts we are seeing unfold today in Israel against women, children, the elderly, and the unarmed people who are being slaughtered and taken hostage by Hamas. All right, so we got a condemnation here. That's pretty good. She's exceeding my expectations right now. Such senseless violence will only repeat the back and forth cycle we've seen, which we cannot allow to continue. We need to call for de-escalation and ceasefire. I will keep advocating for peace and justice throughout the Middle East. So again, talking about a back and forth cycle puts the blame on the U.S. and Israel for perpetuating that cycle, apparently. And de-escalation and ceasefire is something that we saw already in Cori Bush's statement. So the pattern is continuing here as well. Here's AOC's statement, and she put hers on letterhead. She just didn't do a tweet. Today is devastating for all those seeking a lasting peace and respect for human rights in Israel and Palestine. I condemn Hamas's attack in the strongest possible terms. Okay, good. No child and family should ever endure this kind of violence and fear, and this violence will not solve the ongoing oppression and occupation in the region. An immediate ceasefire and de-escalation, there are those words again, is urgently needed to save lives. So, no condemnation of the U.S. policy, so that's better from AOC than we saw from others. But this idea of ceasefire and de-escalation is a message also to Israel saying, you can't retaliate, you can't strike back. I'm definitely seeing the pattern. I hope you are too. And finally, this from Ayanna Pressley, a tweet. These devastating attacks on Israelis are deeply alarming, and my heart breaks for the victims and their loved ones. We need an immediate ceasefire and de-escalation. Did they talk to each other about this language? They're all putting it in there. It is long past time to stop this cycle of violence and trauma, here we go again, and work towards a just and lasting peace in the region. It's the same vocabulary over and over again. Let's talk about it. So when I say there's a pattern, here's what I mean. First, condemn-ish. Some condemned Hamas for what they did. Others just said, oh, the loss of life is terrible here. Violence is terrible. Kumbaya. You get it. Second, justify. In their own way, they seem to blame the U.S. and Israel for being attacked by Hamas. It's their fault this is happening. This violence, this surprise attack, this military action on a high holy day, it's their own fault. It's the same message we saw on MSDNC. Third, de-escalation and ceasefire. This is the veiled way of saying that Israel has no right to defend themselves against any military attacks that kill their people. And finally, demand capitulation. They're acting as the public relations wing of Hamas. Accede to our demands, our terroristic demands, or the cycle of violence will continue. We want a deep and lasting peace, but only on our terms. Basically telling the U.S. and Israel, if you don't want any more violence, you better do what I say. It's the equivalent of a guy with a gun holding it in your face, trying to tell you what to do. Folks, in my opinion, this is the darkest side of socialism that they don't talk about on college campuses or on MSDNC. When it comes down to it, socialism demands your compliance. And oftentimes throughout history, that compliance comes at the end of a rocket, the end of a gun, the end of an army. It's forced compliance because your vision of things is not their vision of things, and their vision of things must win out. It's all about central control, and the only way to control centrally is through violence and war. Make no mistake, this is not only an attack on Israel, this is an attack on Western civilization, this is an attack on the United States, and terrorists are demanding that you capitulate to their way or the violence will continue. And these 5 willing idiots are going right along with it. Keep that in mind the next time you go vote. So that's my opinion on things, folks. Tell me what you think. All opinions are welcome here. I'm happy to entertain it all. As you can see from previous videos, I try to answer as many comments as possible. But please, let's keep it civil for everyone. I know that you guys will do that for me. I also know that you guys will smash that thumbs up button, like, comment, share the show with your friends, all that good stuff. Subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, because I think you guys enjoy these conversations as much as I do, talking about all the shenanigans and buffoonery that happens every day this week in DUMBmocracy.
All views and opinions expressed here are not necessarily of the mainstream media and may offend some listeners. It's called political buffoonery.